Hello and welcome back to the Keeper's Inc. Today I'm going to be showing you and yours some basic building techniques. Now, I may not be the best at doing all of this, but I have played the game for an extensive period of time, so I think I know enough to teach a little. So, without further ado, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you got your bar set up, so you're not fiddling halfway through your build, thinking about what you got to put on it. So some of the basic things you'll need are light armor block, light armored slope, cockpit, thruster, gyro, a power source, be it reactor, large reactor for small ship, or battery. Now these will depend on what resources you have to whether or not you can build this, or if you're building it in creative you don't really have to worry. Medium cargo container, I would say, if you're building something that's going to, say, collect ore, basic mining ship. And a connector to reconnect it to your base. Some kind of antenna or beacon to find said ship if you get disorientated and lose it. An ore detector if you're actually looking for ore. Some small conveyor tubes to be able to connect the small ports of the drills up to your ship. And finally, you may need on your bar some normal conveyor tubes, since it can be handy to do that. Now, this is my Lone Survivor startup platform that I used in the last video. Not quite as washed out, but I'm using an extra mod, which I will link in the description below, called Screen Gunk Be Gone. So thank you to that mod author. I can't think of the top of my head. So yes. So that extra cargo container at the back here is literally a supply of all the bits that I may or may not need during the course of this. So you won't necessarily have that, but it's just to make my life easier and you guys not to have to watch me collect resources, which can be quite boring since this is a tutorial. Okay, so without further ado, you have two ways to do this if you're building this on a Lone Survivor. Way number one, you could place a block on top of this landing gear and then go into here and lock the gear. Sometimes that'll work great, but honestly there's one more thing you should need to put on this on your bar, and that's a landing gear. So if you bring up your G menu, pressing G, you'll get this assortment of stuff here, which is all the items and blocks you can build. Excuse my sniffles. Bit full of cold. So landing gear is almost to the bottom. And all you need to do is just pick hold of it with a left click and drag it to the bar position you want it on. Alternatively, if you wanted to clear something that you put on, you can right click on it down the bottom and it will disappear. And if you only have one slot on your bar, you can press right click and it will jump there, over there on number 8. If you've got 2 slots on your bar, it will jump in the first one. There you go. Now the other thing you might need on this ship, if you're going to be going away for a long period of time, you may want to consider putting on an O2 generator. O2 hydrogen oxygen generator. For this build, we're going to do that. So okay, sorry about that. sneezing session. Right. So, the first thing you want to do is bring up your landing gear. Now, these can be tricky as hell to place, especially if you're not used to doing it. And one thing you'll want to turn off to make sure you don't, end up messing this up is by pressing T. You can see what it does down the bottom below below button number 6. You see it switches on what they call auto rotate. This has been a feature in Space Engineers for quite some time. It started off as something that was actually quite helpful, and you couldn't turn it off, or at least there was no notification of how to turn it off. And now they've actually got that on there, but it switches on for every world, and if you turn it off for a particular world, it will now stay off once you've saved. So that's kind of good. So anyway, turn that feature off, because it will not help you. It will only hinder you. So with the landing gear in your hand, you might end up with it like that. Huge, big landing gear, and it'll be way in your way. So what you do is you press number 1 again, and it'll make it into a small block. And what you're trying to do is trying to line this up so you get it kind of just off the surface. Now if you go too far, it'll go red, and you want it just off the surface. You can use the keys to rotate it if you needed to, but if you put it down and put it too far, it'll jump into a big one, and then you have to start all over again and rotate it. And there it is, and it will auto lock. Even in its frame position, not built, that will be locked if you've done it right. If you've not done it right, chances are it'll be floating off by now. So back to the first page. I'm going to be building this in creative, but obviously you can follow along in survival. It's not going to make much difference. So what you want to do is build a line along the segment of your ship. For me, this is going to be 7 long. And then at the front here somewhere, you want to do a 3x3. So it's 3 wide by 3 long. And I'm placing these individually, even though I could drag them, because that's how you'll be placing them in survival. So, and then you want to put your cockpit pretty much there, and that will be just forward of the leg. Although we'll probably take the leg off by the time we take off for a mining ship. And that's it. You've now got a cockpit, and congratulations, you got a ship. Wait, no, I'm joking. You still need to add more stuff to it. So, next thing you're going to need is an O2 generator. Now, if we just look at this for a second, the O2 generator has 2 ports on this side, and it has a large port on this side. Now this is important because if you notice the cockpit, which I will paste in, actually let's just paste it around that way so it's a little more easier to comprehend. So the cockpit has a large port on the bottom and 2 small ports. They're exactly the same size and placement as this on the back. Okay? And the large port's on the bottom. But we don't have to worry about the large port at the moment. We're just going to go for the small ports. So what we need to do is when we place the oxygen generator onto the ship, you want to get the ghost image so that it's got those small ports around facing the 2 small ports. So when you push it against it, just kind of turn it around, and there you go. So now we've got a cockpit, an oxygen generator. I'm going to delete these. So next up, we're going to need some kind of storage. Now for a small ship, if you're running on 3x settings, I'd still recommend 2 of these. So medium cargo container, again, you'll notice it has large and small. All right. We want to put 1, 2. Okay. And the next thing we're going to put down is a connector. Now, the connectors are quite cool. They allow you to connect to large grids as well as small by just locking them. And as you can see me turning that around, it has a large port on the back, 1, 2, 3, 4 small ports around the side, and then it's got the connector on the front. The large version of this is literally just a large connection, but it will not fit onto here. So I can't put a large connector like that and just kind of like slap it on this ship. It won't work. Large grid goes to large, small grid goes to small. That's just the way it is. In fact, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to put this on there. So we've got a place to drop our ore when we go mining. So put your connector on the back. And you're going to notice it's red. Why are you red? Well, it's because you've got no power. Now, if you are building with batteries, you're going to notice that you're going to have to end up having something sticking out the side. Because the only real place to place batteries in this particular design is right smack bang on the side there. Which is fine. You can work around it because we've still got to place thrusters and things. But if you're working reactors, that's slightly different. So just keep that in mind. So I'm actually going to place a battery on each side. And I'm actually going to take back off this and that, and I'm going to do something different, just slightly. So I'm going to turn the medium cargo container so that it's got a small port up and a small port down, like so. All right. I'll put my connector back on. So now this thing's got power. You'll notice that this has gone white, and if I plugged it into that, it'd go yellow, and then you press P to lock, or put something on your bar and switch locks, which is a good idea to get used to doing. So this is going to need to charge. So for the duration of this build, I'm going to leave it charging using a reactor, like so. And I'm also going to place a second one back here, like so. Now, did I get... No, I didn't. Okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, just ignore this last bit. It's me grabbing some power. There we go. Right, so all I'm going to do is bring my power. You might farm some uranium, so if you're on this one, uranium deposit is right there. So if you go and drill that and put it in the refinery, you can get yourself some uranium. But it takes it forever and a day on default settings, which is what this is on. So I just want to get this put in. So with the uranium in your inventory, if you've got batteries on and the thing's already powered up, you can just place this in the connector, and the 2 reactors will start to pull it. Just there. And they'll split 5 uranium ingots between them. Now, if you don't have a battery on, and you can't make batteries yet, one thing you can do is put a cold start reactor on. So I like to place mine just above the cockpit, just there. And for that, you just kind of access it and put uranium in. So for me, I'm just going to right click and drag, type 1, just grab some uranium out of there. And you only need a little tiny bit in the cold start, because ideally you're not going to be using it very much. Okay. Cold start. Actually, on second thoughts, let's call it that. There we go. Okay, so now you've got a cold start reactor. And we should probably switch this off because we don't really need it right now. So hopefully those batteries will go into recharge mode, and if they don't, you can jump in the cockpit and you can access both batteries. You can hold down control to select both and set them to recharge. Now you will need to make sure you unset them to recharge before you pull off, or those reactors will be continuously charging the batteries and doing you no good. To be fair, you won't need to worry about charging it too much because they do have a bit of charge in it, enough to say go mine some uranium or something else on this droid. So next thing we need to do is we need to place some thrusters. So for this, I'm going to try and keep things even on both sides. So I'm going to start by placing one thruster just here, and I'm going to do the next one. Okay, I guess I'm not going to do the next one. Let's put that there. I'm going to put the next one somewhat even with the cockpit, halfway up. And then I'm going to put the next one above that. So there's 6 on the front. If you don't have enough materials to make 6 on the front, that's fine. You can actually get away with putting 1 in every direction. Just be aware that, you know, moving this when it's fully loaded may be a challenge. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 4 on the back. So just next to each other, like this. And the reason I'm doing it like that is because that's roughly the same width as what the battery is. So we can armor this up at a later date. I want to come down 2 spaces, almost right below the battery. And I'm just going to put 2 on that side. And 2 on that side. And the next one I'm going to be doing is downward thrusters. They're going to go right at the back. 1 there. 1 there. 1 there and 1 there. And there. Okay, we don't need that. Okay, so I need to mirror this side. So 1, 2, 3. And there we go. That is, you would think, a functional ship. But we're missing something. So we've got downward thrust, backward, forward, left, right. Anyone hazard a guess? If you're all yelling at me right now, upward thrust, you got it right. So the thing I'm missing is upward thrust. And normally I do this so that it comes even with the top, but you can design this differently if you wanted. 1, 2, 3. Like I said, you can do 1 thruster in every direction if you want to. I'll show you a small demonstration of that in a little while. So the only thing we really need on this now is a gyro. And I'm going to suggest that if you kind of look down here, if my spotlight's going to help, that you put it right next to where the cockpit is, at the back near the landing gear, and just facing out. So on that middle stalk, just facing out. I personally put 2 on, but you can get away with one very easily. I'm also going to turn both of those gyros down so they're the equivalent of one, but it will give me the option to turn them up when this is fully loaded. So, with that on there, this now is a functional ship. Now, before you unlock, the way to test whether you got thrust in every direction is to literally jump in the cockpit, press left, oh sorry, press right, and the left should burn. Push left and the right should burn. Press space and the bottom one should burn. Forward, back ones, and you press C to go down, and that's the top ones. Now you notice that we're really phasing on power. It's like, hey, you know, this is not working. We're maxing on power down in the bottom right. Well, that's because we've got the batteries set to recharge as well. If I was to take those batteries off of recharge, like so. Oh wait, don't worry about auto, semi-auto. Okay, just manually do it. I was take those batteries off recharge. We now have enough power. So, right, left, forward. I'm actually pressing back. There we go. Back. And space. And C. And now we're not getting any kind of power drain. And we got 177 days of power while idling. And that's because these thrusters, you can leave it hovering. It doesn't use any power. Antennas and things will. But your thrusters, you can leave it idling. And your batteries, well, let's just say your batteries will keep you going for a little while. If I was to turn off all these reactors, wait, why didn't that work? Because I hid the blocks. We'll talk about that shortly. So now I've got 29 days of power and I'm just running off the batteries. This is why I'm idling. I push forward, 56 minutes. Push back, 38 minutes, because there's 6 on the front. Press space, 56. Left, 2 hours. Right, 2 hours. I press C to go down, again 38 minutes. So you could burn for 38 minutes effectively. It's the shortest time. So those batteries in their current state of recharge, which has 377 kilowatts hours in each battery. So there we go. Okay. So that's you there as a ship, and you've checked that all you've got thrusters in every direction. That's a good idea before you unlock. I'm going to press P to unlock. And I can literally just move around side to side. And this now is a successful ship. If you didn't have the ability to build drills yet, you could very easily carry on with your mining by hand and use this as just a means to get it back. Now, I'm going to have to do this now, aren't I? Right, okay. So, a little bit of configuration since I've actually got stuck. First of all, press G, and you want to drag your connector down to your bar, and you want to say turn off. I'm going to put mine on number 4 because it's in nice easy reach. And the next one you want is another connector, drag into your bar, and you want to say this time switch lock. Okay. So for me, switching off allows me to move away. If I switch it back on, as I get close, you'll see it goes yellow and it kind of pulls me towards. You see that? Well, I've got thrusters on the back to slow me down. But if you've only got one thruster, that can be a real pain, because this can actually pull with enough force to smash your ship. So if I was to turn off my thrusters, I didn't do it that time, but it very much can do. Trust me on that. So one thing I suggest is going into your K menu by pressing K. Find your connector and turn the strengths not down to disabled, but if you control left click, you can type 0.5. And if your ships are set to 0.5 and the station is set to its default, which is 1.5, that's fine. Because now when I pull up, it just gently pulls me in. It's not so much of a smash. So I'm going to turn that off and I'll come back that. So there we go. Alright. Now I can press 5 to lock. I can also press P. If you notice over on the right hand side, there's like a P with a exclamation. Looks like a break sign. You can press P and you can unlock it, and it will say connected disabled. And pressing P makes the things go blue, so that releases the magnetic lock, allowing you to pull away for a few seconds without the need to turn it off. And as you go back towards it, it'll go yellow, ready for you to lock again. You can either press 5 or P. Personally, I would ignore the P ability to lift off and unlock things, because later on down the road, if you get in a habit of doing that and you've got multiple things attached to a ship via connectors, you press P and they'll all unlock. That can be problematic. Let's just leave that there. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually turn my reactors back on and probably make some groups. I apologise for the pauses. Okay, so make some groups. So to make a group, you use this function over here, but you have to select the blocks you want in the group. To select multiple blocks, you can either press Control A, which would select everything, or you can just press the block you want, hold down Control, and left click, and you'll get both of the blocks selected. And I'm going to call this battery bank. And hit save. There it is. Done. Now, when I press escape, and I press G, I've got a new little option come up down the left hand side that say groups. And look, it says battery bank. This is great because we want to drag the battery bank over to number 9, well out of the way, so we can set this to recharge on off. Not batteries on off, recharge on off. Okay. And then if I press 9, the station is now charging my batteries because we're connected. So these will be actually going up a little quicker than me using just the reactors on here. Speaking of the reactors, I will group the reactors up. So the orange one, because we're connected, that is the base reactor. Okay? When I disconnect, that orange one will disappear from my menu unless I'm looking at the base. As you can see, we've got assembler, the lone survivor beacon, another connector, the control station, the gravity generator. But these are not on the ship. White things are on your ship. If you're sitting in your ship, white things are on your ship. If you're sitting over there in the station, white things are now the ship. Okay? And they slightly alter the color tone for every ship you have connected. So if you've got 20 ships connected, you might find one that is bright pink or green. It just randomly offsets the color slightly as it goes along. Orange, yellow, right the way down to greens. Okay, so I wanted to group those reactors. Reactor 1, Reactor 2, I'm just selecting them. And I'm going to say main reactors. And it's a good idea to keep the name of the group something similar to the name of the block. So if you're naming lights, crew quarter lights. The reason being is because that way then when you search for lights, you're going to get all the lights up, but you'll also get the group that is listed. It's kind of helpful that way. Anyway, I hit save, and when I press X, you'll know that we have groups because the groups and the names have stars around them. And this brings me to my next bit. Now, you may have seen me do this earlier by accident, but this time it'll be on purpose. So when you first start up Space Engineers, you'll notice that you have an eye up here, and it'll have a cross through it like this. Okay? If you click the cross so that it puts it back to an eye, and this will show all blocks. And by this, I mean, if you accidentally hit show block in terminal, and you were like, but I know that block was there. What the hell's going on? I know what's going on. It was there. It's because it's grayed out. And if I do that, it disappears from my list. There is no batteries there now. If I didn't have a group for them, I wouldn't be able to control them. Until I realise, hey, there's hidden blocks here. What the hell? Okay. So now I can see them. It keeps this list kind of nice and clean. And that's kind of good. So to do that, exactly that, I can type thruster, T-H-R, and there's all these different thrusters. And you notice that some of them say backward, forward. So this is the direction they're going to push you. So the backward-facing thrusters brake you. The forward-facing thrusters push you forward. That's pretty much how it works. The other ones are self-explanatory. But you'll only see the up, down, left, right while you're sitting in the ship. If I was to get out of the ship and look at this cold start reactor and type thrusters, all I see is thrusters. Ion thrusters. So I'm going to get back in here and I'm going to group the thrusters up. To do it, hang on. Okay, so to do that, you press click on one once you've got all the thrusters up. Click on one and then press Control A. And then over here, you want to type thrusters all, or thrusters group, or thrusters for minor ship, if you've got multiple groups of thrusters. I'm just going to do thrusters all. Please ignore this thruster override. Don't play with this until you've been playing the game for a while, because you might end up losing a ship. Just going to say, it'll make your ship shoot off in one direction if you did it to basically turn this on, and you'll see all the thrusters kind of go at it. And if I was to select just this backward thruster and turn the thruster override on, you can see just there, that thruster starts to push. If we weren't connected to the station, we'd have thrown off in a direction by now. So just leave the thruster override alone. So anyway, did I not save the group? Yes, I did. Okay, so now I've saved the group. All of those lovely thrusters in one. I'm going to say hide block in terminal. And I'm going to turn off the eye. And now all my thrusters are gone. So this list is no longer as big as it once was, which is great. Okay, so the next thing we have to do, now those batteries had a bit of a charge, and you'll notice all the time I was building, they were charging, but in the 5 minutes I spent talking about groups, it's charged up almost double the amount it did that, because that reactor, the big one on the station, puts out a hell of a lot more power than those two little small reactors we got on top. So that's kind of good. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is actually add some drills onto here to make this into a mining ship. So I'm going to disconnect this. Oh. Well, I can't move. Why can't I move? I can press Y. Nope, can't move. Can move the camera by pressing Alt. Oh, that's why we put the group on the bar. Press number 9. And then your batteries will come alive. Now we did actually put on the main reactors. So since we're going to use, for this demonstration, batteries, let's toggle off the reactors. And you'll see the 2 top ones have kind of toggled off, because that's the only one we really set as a group. The cold start reactor, I'm going to set off manually. Now, I will say to you, you can toggle all these different things on and off and just run off batteries. But if you touch Y, which is the power symbol in the right hand corner, you will turn your ship off, and when you press Y to turn it on, you will turn everything on. The game doesn't care. It just casts it as power and assumes you want to use it. So if you just want to run off of, say, batteries or just reactors, and you've got both on your ship, make a group and toggle them individually. Or toggle them individually from the K menu. So anyway, I'm going to use this opportunity and pull myself away, and I'm going to land again. And you'll notice my landing gear kind of went blue. And as I landed, I didn't have to lock. That's called the auto lock feature, and it can be helpful, but it can also be a real pain in your ass. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And that can be switched on and off via the landing gear options just there. Toggle. And you can also unlock and ready to lock in here. Since I'm going to get rid of that landing gear, I'm not too fussed. But let's get on with adding some drills to this. So let's talk about the small conveyor tubes. And the ore detector. And also the antenna that I said you'd need. Okay, so where to tuck these things? Well, for me, let's go with first of all, let's do the antenna. I'm going to put the antenna just on that bar next to the thrusters, tucked down below the top of the ship. So it's just there. Then I'm going to put the ore detector, again, right in this corner. No, ore detector, not tubes. And I'm going to kind of either poke it up or down and just kind of put it there. Or an unknown signal was detected. Just ignore if you've got unknown signals on. Don't go chasing after them all the time. You'll end up spending more time doing that than not. So, you got your ore detector on. You got your antenna on. Brilliant. Okay. That's good. So, now you can go and scan asteroids. And to show you how that works, if you don't see anything, first of all, check your ore detector is actually switched on. So mine's on, and it's set to 25 meters, which is not very far. And you can slide that up. Make sure broadcast using antennas is on, unless you're on a PvP server, which we won't get into right now. But I'm going to unlock my gear, and I'm just going to fly over here. Now, why isn't this scanning? Well, in pressing buttons, if you've accidentally touched H for hotel, you may have switched the signal names off. I'm just pressing H 4 times and signaling through them. So the first time you press it from off, it goes to normal display. The second time to fully visible. The third time to no names. And the fourth time is off. So I'm going to leave mine to fully visible. And you can now see that there is iron, uranium, and ice within range of this. And that's pretty much it. As I fly around this ship, as I fly around the Roid, it just kind of goes with Just those three elements. So ice, iron, and uranium. Well, iron and uranium are a good start. And there's other roids all around to asteroids, sorry. All the way around to go and scan and gather resources from. But to do that, you're going to need some drills, unless you're going to hand mine everything, which you can do, but you might find it a bit tedious after you've gathered your 20th suit load. So to stop all of that, I'm going to show you how to put some drills on your ship. Now, what you can do to start out, you can literally take a drill. It looks like that. It's got a small port on the side, small port on the side, one on the back. And you can literally slap it straight on the front of your cockpit. Boom, done. You've got a mining ship. Congratulations, off you go. But you can also be a little more tact. So I'm going to actually do what I just did, and I'm going to place one on there. But I'm not going to place it straight on the end of the cockpit. I'm going to put a small conveyor cube there. Okay? And the reason I'm doing this is because I want a little bit of armor just at the front there. Okay? And I'm actually going to start to shape this. So to do this, I'm pressing 3 to get my armor block up. And I'm just scrolling. And it's going through all the different armor shapes that you can do. And I'm just going to put a slope on the front here. Just so it's got a bit more shape to it. I mean, you can use these as well. They're quite nice. And you can scroll and get a slope tip. And you can get some really nice angles out of it. But I'm not going to do that this time. So I want to put my drill on the end here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a second drill. One on that side. And when it will go, one on that side. Okay, perfect. Now, there's a problem. You saw when we were pushing forward how much the thrust kind of like pushed, and these thrusters will do damage to other blocks. And to demonstrate this, while I'm locked down, I'm going to push. Eventually that block on the side, the drill on the left and right side, they are going to take damage. Not a lot probably, and over time it might not even notice, but you can see the edge of the frames is 3 blocks from their tip, so 5 in total from their base. So that is doing some serious harm to the drills underneath. So to stop it from doing that, and I can check how much damage it's done. Okay, it's done none. You're going to call me a liar again, aren't you? Well, anyway, what I was going to say is to make sure it's not doing any damage, just get rid of the thruster that we put directly in the front there, and just kind of bring it back. And if you're not quite happy with that, you could add some armor in here. Just bring that down, block off where the gyro is, and shove a thruster there. Or even put it directly in line with this. Just here. And then that way then isn't going to burn. And if I just show you the difference, you'll see that it's not touching. It's only touching the edge of the block, which shouldn't do any damage, even at max burn. So that's a better way to do it. And I put these on here on purpose to show you the mistake you can make. And although that didn't burn and actually damage that, trust me, if you get it in the wrong spot, these guys have a larger radius. So look, if I put my block over the top of that, you can see that it's just above. It's just a bit wider than that. It's actually 3 deep. I can only place blocks on 2, but it's actually 3 deep. Okay? So that's why that thruster being right there, in line with this, could have damaged it. So, anyway. Now, the drills will pump through the cockpit. And because the cockpit's connected through the back to the oxygen generator, and then through to the cargo box, and then through to the other cargo box, and finally through to the connector, we can transfer stuff. If I demonstrate that by getting my hand drill for a moment, I'll just drill some stone, and what I shall do is I shall place some stone inside here, and it's going to push it through to the cargo box. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, stone. And there it is. It's pushed it through to the cockpit first. The nearest storage box is the cockpit. So I'm going to drag that through to the medium cargo container. I can drag it through to the other one. And finally to the connector. I come to the back here. And there it is, in the connector. And I can drag it out. There is ways and means of getting rid of stone. And you'll find that if you're drilling near a stone deposit, or should I say drilling near an ore deposit and the stone next to it, you'll find that there's a lot of stone going to get collected. And it can be a pain to get rid of. You do not need to refine it all. But I will show you an advanced way to get rid of that in another video. Okay, so, well, this video has gone on quite a lot, but I think I've shown most of the stuff here. This is a functional mining ship. This will work. But I am going to quickly build something a little smaller and show you something that's important. So first of all, the something that's important is ownership. You see how that's white and this is white? Well, if you're in single player, that's great. It's perfect. It's in white, it's good. Doesn't matter. It's owned by nobody. And if I jump in the cockpit, you'll see there, it says in the control panel, say the cold start reactor. You'll see ownership. Nobody. Okay? Antenna. Nobody. You do not have to go through and individually own every single monotonous block. You don't have to do that. There's a quick way. Check the eye. Make sure it shows hidden blocks. So basically make sure it doesn't have a slash through it. And you can see your batteries again, which are, again, owned by nobody. Click on something. Press Control A to highlight everything. And then transfer ownership to me, meaning you, meaning your character. And that's it. And it will share with a faction. Now, if you're in a faction, it will share that with your faction by default. If you didn't want to share it with your faction, you could select something again, press Control A, and say no share. Or if you were just in a world where you got two factions maybe, with a group of people working together, but you want them to be able to borrow your ship, you could say share with all. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of that, but there's upsides and downsides to it. Anyway, one of the features, once you've actually owned all the blocks on a ship, or at least the majority of the blocks, you can now name your ship. This is important for the purpose of personal sanity, and also if you are on a server, makes admin's life easier. So, in the info tab, you'll see an assortment of information. You can take note of some of the stuff on the left. This is your ship, how many triangles it has, its mass, physical shapes, blocks, number of blocks, conveyors. You can see what it says. So, there you go. Ignore all this about converting ships to stations. Don't worry about that just yet. And name your ship. So, I like to name mine with a prefix. All of my prefixes are usually K4L, because it's the Keepers for Life Steam group. However, you can prefix it whatever you want. So say, for example, minor ship, and I'll say V1. And in brackets, I'm going to put toot, meaning tutorial. So there you go. I hit OK on that, and that is now saved as a ship. Well, it saved its name. Something kind of important to do when you first start out, and I'm going to turn my crosshair back on for this because it will make it a little easier for you to get. Go into the game settings. There we go. Right. So crosshair turning on and off was in game settings, and clicking that button. Okay. So there's my crosshair. Hello, crosshair. You need to point your crosshair at the ship. Press Control B. Okay. And if I type in 2, it'll bring up my mining ship there, and it'll have taken a snapshot of it. And this is blueprints. I won't dive directly into blueprints and show you what they are and everything else, because I think that's something for another video, but it's definitely something to consider. Blueprint your ship. Always blueprint your ship. If you make a change to it, blueprint it. You can edit in your blueprints the name. So if for some reason you didn't name your ship and you already found the blueprint option, you can click on it, see what ship it was. If you're in creative, you can press OK and you can just kind of paste it in. But if you're not in creative, which most of you probably won't be, you can click just on there and you can see the picture, which is just there. Yeah. And also you can click details and it will show you the picture, and you can rename it. So I'm going to call this 2X just to show you the rename. So now when I search for it, I can type in 2X. Okay, I mean, chances are you won't need to search because you may only have a few blueprints, which is fine. Blueprints are stored on the computer that you're on. So if you're on a friend's computer, something you might want to do is details and publish. And this will publish it to the workshop, and you can take that link and subscribe to it on your own. Anyway, a quick little ship, like the quickest little ship, the absolute basic you need, I'm going to do now. Now, you would think, hey, I'm doing this backwards, but no, because 99% of people, the first ship they build is a mining ship. So there you go. One thing I didn't mention is these little conveyor tubes, actually. And they work by just placing them on these little ports. And you can do it if you didn't have these batteries here, which I'm not going to delete. There'd be a small port like this one on the side, and you could bypass the cockpit and have it go straight into the cargo box, and you just run a line for that, and make your thrusters fall off. Okay, so maybe I just wrecked the ship. Oops. That was not the plan, but that's okay. I don't mind. Alright, so you might notice now that there's 2 thrusters in the group when I have them shown that are not in the group, they're not hidden. So with the group selected, you scroll down and you control click on the 2 that are not included and hit save, and then you can toggle the block in terminal on off, and all the thrusters are now hidden again. Yay. You may need to add thrusters and things back to groups if you've removed them and re-added them. Anyway, the absolute basics of a ship, it consists of a cockpit, a gyroscope. I'm putting the gyroscope on first. And then a thruster in every direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm actually putting 2 on there, and I don't need to. So 1, and then literally I'm going to put 1 on the side there. Boom. And then for power, there's some power, and I haven't got no uranium on me. Mr. Prepared. Pressing 1, so right click to drag across. And I just put the 1 uranium in there. Boom. There we go. This here is a functional ship. I unlock my landing gear. This will work. This will work to scan. So you could do this and then put an ore detector on it. So if you didn't want to build a big mining ship, you just wanted something to quickly go and scan the asteroids, this would be it. Boom. And if you've got enough stuff to do it, put yourself an antenna on there. And don't forget to own it. Now bear in mind, if you're building this in creative, you'll need to do this, and you'll need to own all the blocks. If you're building it in survival, it will automatically be owned by you. So I'm just going to own it all, and that's it. That's a little tiny ship, and it will scan for you. And just to show you whatnot, let me just power this thing down. Alright. Okay, so now it's only this that is scanning. There's nothing else. See that? Power that back on. And this is now a 1 thruster in every direction kind of deal. And that is perfectly viable to scan. And it's also perfectly viable to actually use to mine. So, for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you a little trick if you've actually built something as small as this and compact as this, if you're hand mining. So, you'd think, hey, but this doesn't have any storage on it. Well, in actual fact, it does. Wait. Okay. If you remember our little test from earlier, where I put the stone in the cargo and it went all the way through to the cockpit, well, you can do the same again. So I'm drilling and I'm pressing F to pick up stuff that floats off. And I'm going to keep drilling until my inventory is full. And you'll know it's full by the red line that's slowly building up. Okay? And you'll see the backpack icon. If I try and drill any more and pick up, it's not going to have it. So, let me actually just show you this real quick. Okay, so now there's actually a hole there because the gravity's pushing everything away. So if I just left click now, you'll see that there's a piece of stone there,
inventory full,
and it's yelling at me saying
full.
inventory full.
Inventory
And the symbol down there with the backpack, the exclamation mark, that's your backpack. So inventory is full. But we can fix that. I can jump into my cockpit, I can press I, and I can double click on my uranium, or I can just drag it across. And there you go. Your suit might have limited storage, but you can now use the cockpit to store stuff. And I can even drag my ammo across there, my bottles, hydrogen, the gun I don't need, the steel plates I don't need. And that way then, this becomes a little storage unit for you to fly around, gather some materials, and you're not having to run back with a suit load of stuff every time, which could be really helpful. So you can also access it directly from the front. So walk up to it, press F, and drag your stuff in. And I think that's about all she wrote for this. So there will be more helpful episodes to come. So stay tuned. I hope this was helpful. And I will list the Screen Be Gone, Screen Gunk Be Gone. Screen Gunk Be Gone. And you can do that. And I just crashed. Lovely. So, yeah. My advice to you, if you are going to use this little pod as a ship to build and do things, my personal advice would be is try and put 2 braking thrusters, because when this thing weighs up a little bit, having 2 braking thrusters and 2 go thrusters will kind of help. But as you saw, it works perfectly without. Anyway, without further ado, I will leave you in peace. And say thank you for watching. And see you all next time. Have fun, guys.